Welcome back, legends, to the channel. And if you're new here, you've just stepped into the rabbit hole. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like, because today, we are not just scratching the surface. We are digging. We are going deep. And what we're uncovering will change how you see everything. The internet has been buzzing. Headlines screaming. Tabloids speculating. Shocking truth behind Caryn Chandler and Matt's divorce. Revealed. Uncovered secrets. You've seen it. You've clicked it. But here's the thing, what if none of those articles have the real story? What if the shocking truth they're all talking about is just a carefully managed piece of a puzzle so massive, it's almost impossible to see the whole picture from where we're standing? This is a story about perception versus reality. About the narrative we're shown, and the whispers that exist just outside the frame. This isn't about taking sides. This is about following the trail of breadcrumbs. And trust me, it's a long, winding trail. So, grab your headphones, get comfortable, and whatever you do, do not look away. Because by the end of this, you're going to have questions. A lot of them. And this is only part one. Let's start with what everyone knows. The public timeline. The picture perfect, until it wasn't. On the surface, for years, we saw a partnership. A dynamic that seemed built on a shared history, on mutual respect, on building something from the ground up. We saw the public appearances. The collaborative projects. The image of a unit. But in the world of public figures, especially those who've built an empire on authenticity, the line between personal and professional isn't just blurred, it's often completely erased. Their relationship was their brand. Their interactions were content. Their life was a show. And when that's the case, every slight shift in tone, every missed event, every change in social media interaction, becomes a data point. A clue. And the clues, they started adding up long before any official announcement, didn't they? Think back. The interviews where the energy felt different. Not hostile, but distant. The projects where credit seemed to be framed in a new way. The subtle but distinct pivot in their individual public focuses. It was like watching two planets in the same solar system slowly, inexorably, adjusting their orbits. They were still in the same sky, but the gravitational pull was changing. The official statements, when they came, were masterclasses in diplomacy. Language of mutual respect, personal growth, and the desire for privacy during a difficult time. The standard script. And the public, for the most part, accepted it. Irreconcilable differences. The classic, catch-all term. It's neat. It's tidy. It closes the book. But what if the book was never meant to be closed? What if irreconcilable differences isn't an end, but a beginning? A starting point for understanding what truly happened behind closed doors, in boardrooms, in silent car rides home, and in the unspoken expectations that can build up over a decade? Let's talk about environment. Because context is everything. You don't just wake up one day and decide to dismantle a life you've built without immense, tectonic pressures building beneath the surface for years. Imagine living in a fishbowl. Now imagine that fishbowl is also your office, your creative studio, your financial livelihood, and the subject of millions of people's daily commentary. Every sigh is analyzed. Every expression is memed. Every success is public, and every failure is a trending topic. That's not just pressure, that's a psychological pressure cooker. Now, place a personal relationship inside that cooker. A relationship that is also a business partnership. A brand. An LLC. Suddenly, arguments aren't just about leaving the dishes in the sink. They're about branding strategy, revenue splits, creative direction, and public perception. A disagreement over a video concept isn't just a creative difference, it's a potential financial loss. A dispute over a public appearance isn't just about schedule, it's about maintaining a fragile public image. The lines vanish. Where does the business end and the marriage begin? When you go to sleep at night, are you talking to your partner, or your business associate? And what happens when those two roles want fundamentally different things? When one person's vision for the future of the brand diverges violently from the other's vision for the future of their life. This is the crucible. This is where irreconcilable differences are forged. Not in dramatic, screaming fights necessarily, but in the quiet, gnawing resentment of a business decision that feels like a personal betrayal. In the exhaustion of never, ever being able to turn off the performance. In the heartbreaking realization that the person you built it all with now sees you more as a key employee than a life partner. The weight of that world, it cracks foundations. And sometimes, those cracks start in places the public never gets to see. This is where we move from the known into the realm of informed speculation. The space between the lines. The whispers. I'm not talking about wild conspiracy theories. I'm talking about patterns. About the things that don't get said, but are screamed by absence. Let's look at the digital footprint. In the modern age, our social media is a heartbeat monitor for our lives. And when a public relationship shifts, that monitor shows arrhythmias. The gradual decrease of shared photos. The change in caption tone, from affectionate to formal. The shift from we to I. The likes that stop appearing on each other's posts. The follows of new, separate circles of people, lawyers? New business consultants? Therapists? Then, there are the peripheral players. The inner circle. The longtime friends, collaborators, and family members. Watch their behavior. Do they suddenly become very quiet when the topic arises? Do their interviews become meticulously vague? Do they start appearing exclusively with one party and not the other? These aren't accidents. They're strategic silences. And a strategic silence speaks volumes. And what about the business entities? The LLCs, the production companies, the trademarks. Public records, folks. They tell a story of their own. The filing of new trademarks under individual names. The dissolution of old joint business entities. The formation of new, separate companies. This is the unsexy, paperwork side of a breakup, and it's arguably the most telling. It's the legal and financial uncoupling, and it often happens on a parallel track to the emotional one. The timing of these filings, it's a map. A map that often leads you to the when long before the public why is ever revealed. We also have to consider the professional reinventions. In the aftermath, it's not uncommon to see a dramatic pivot. A new style. A new genre of content. A new business venture that seems completely detached from the old world. This isn't just moving on. This is often a scorched earth policy on the old identity. It's a statement, this is who I am now. Separately. Without that context. It's a reclaiming of self. And the more dramatic the pivot, the more you have to wonder about the constraints of the previous life. Now, here's where it gets really complex. In any high-profile separation, there is almost always a battle for the narrative. It's not fought in headlines initially, it's fought in whispers, in selective leaks, in the framing of stories by sources close to one side or the other. Think about the stories that have trickled out. The friend who says one person was blindsided. The insider who claims the other was impossible to work with. The source who hints at disagreements over core values or financial management. These aren't random. They are strategic communications. They are the opening salvos in a war to control public opinion, which directly impacts future business viability, brand deals, and audience loyalty. Who benefits from being seen as the wounded party? Who benefits from being seen as the strong, silent type moving forward? Who benefits from a narrative of amicable versus contentious? This is high-stakes chess, not checkers. Every interview, every social media post in the aftermath, is a move on that board. And this is crucial to understand, the shocking truth headline you click on, is often planted by one side of this unseen war. It's designed to shape your perception before the other side can counter. It's about securing the loyalty of the audience, which is the ultimate currency in their world. So, when you read a revealed story, you have to ask, who does this revelation help? Who does it hurt? And what is it distracting us from seeing? Because sometimes, the biggest secrets aren't about scandalous affairs or hidden crimes, they're about power, control, and the brutal, unglamorous business of dividing an empire. Let's pause for a second. Let's strip away the brands, the businesses, the public personas. At the center of this are two human beings. That's easy to forget when we're analyzing traffic patterns and trademark filings. They entered into this as individuals, with dreams, flaws, vulnerabilities, and a shared vision. They built something monumental together. They lived an incredibly unique and intensely pressurized life. They experienced the highest highs of public adoration and success, and the lowest lows of having every stumble magnified. The weight of that journey changes people. It has to. The person you are at 30, building a dream, is not the person you are at 40, managing the reality of that dream come true. People grow. They change. Sometimes, they grow together. And sometimes, they grow apart. It's a universal human story. The tragedy here is that their growing apart happens on a global stage, with billions of dollars and millions of opinions attached to it. The grief in a breakup like this isn't just for the relationship. It's for the shared identity. It's for the death of a future they once pictured. It's for the loss of a working partnership that was also a deep, personal history. That's a multifaceted loss. And navigating that grief while cameras are pointed at you, while business must go on, while you have to strategically manage the public's perception, that is a special kind of hell. So, amidst our digging for secrets, we cannot lose sight of that simple, painful truth. This is, at its core, a human story of a profound ending. The business drama is the shell. The personal evolution, and devastation, is the core. And that is exactly where we have to stop for today. Because we've just laid the groundwork. We've looked at the public facade, the pressure cooker environment, the digital whispers, the narrative war, and the human heart at the center of it all. But we have only just begun to scratch the surface. Because in part 2, we're going to connect the dots on a specific timeline that doesn't add up. We're going to look at the specific business moves that were the true telltale signs. We're going to analyze the first, crucial interviews they gave separately, and decode what was really being said between the lines. And we're going to explore a handful of specific, credible theories from industry insiders about the singular, pivotal moment that made the split inevitable, theories that have nothing to do with salacious gossip, and everything to do with business, legacy, and creative control. The rabbit hole goes so much deeper. If you're not subscribed, you need to do that right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because part 2 is dropping soon, and you will not want to miss it. The pieces we put together there will change the entire narrative. In the comments, I want you to tell me, based on what we've covered today, what one question about this situation bothers you the most. What's the puzzle piece you can't find? Let me know. And smash that like button if you want part 2 immediately. The more likes, the faster I'll get it edited and uploaded. Remember, legends, the story you're told is never the whole story. Stay curious. Stay skeptical. You asked for it. You clicked, you liked, you subscribed. And you've been waiting. Welcome back, legends, to the most requested deep dive this channel has ever done. This is the one. The follow-up. The part where the breadcrumbs we scattered in part 1 finally lead us to the mouth of the cave. If you're just joining us, stop. Go back. Watch part 1. Because what we're about to unpack here builds on every single foundation we laid down about the public facade, the pressure cooker, and the silent war. This is not a recap. This is a revelation. Last time, I promised you a connected timeline. I promised you the business moves that were the true tells. I promised you a look at the pivotal moment. Strap in. We're going in chronological, forensic detail. This is the story behind the shocking truth headline. And trust me, the real truth is often quieter, and far more consequential, than any clickbait could ever capture. Let's rewind the clock. Publicly, the world became aware of the fracture at a certain date. the announcement. The official divorce headlines. But in the world of high-stakes business and brand management, the legal and operational uncoupling always precedes the public one. Always. It's Business 101. You get your ducks in a row before you make the announcement that will scatter the flock. So, let's ignore the tabloid date. Let's look at the business registry filings. The trademark applications. The changes in corporate officer titles. When you compile these dry, public documents, a new story emerges. And it starts a full 18 months before the public ever had a clue. 18 months. That's a year and a half of silent, methodical, legal, and financial disentanglement. What does that tell us? It tells us the decision was not reactive. It was not a sudden, explosive fight. It was a strategic, coldly calculated, long-term exit strategy. This was a boardroom decision before it was a bedroom one. During this shadow period, what did we see publicly? We saw business as usual. We saw collaborative posts, though, if you look back now with this lens, they feel more and more like contractual obligations. We saw joint appearances, but the chemistry felt rehearsed. Professional. Because it likely was. They were likely already operating under a provisional, private agreement. We maintain the public image until the business separation is legally airtight. Think about the psychological toll of that. Smiling for the camera, building content, interacting with fans as a unit, while behind the scenes, lawyers are drafting separation agreements and dividing assets. That's an Academy Award-worthy performance, sustained for over a year. It explains the subtle, creeping distance we all sensed but couldn't name. We weren't imagining it. We were witnessing the slow bleed of a partnership in its final, professional stages. Now, let's get specific. Let's name the moves. Because these aren't theories, these are public record actions that form a crystal-clear pattern. Move 1, the IP divide. About 16 months pre-announcement, a series of new trademark applications were filed. Not under their joint holding company, but under individual names, and under newly formed, separate corporate entities. These trademarks weren't for old, shared projects. They were for new, solo ventures, product lines, potential new show names, merchandise concepts that had zero connection to their joint brand identity. This is the first, biggest tell. It's the declaration of independent future. You don't spend thousands on legal fees to trademark a solo venture if you see your future as a duo. Move 2, the financial firewalls. Around the same time, a quiet but significant shift occurred in their main corporate structure. New bank accounts were linked. New signatories were added to certain funds. Old joint accounts were methodically wound down. This is the unglamorous heart of the split, the division of capital. Cash flow was being rerouted. Financial dependencies were being severed. This is the point of no return in any business partnership. Once you start building separate financial fortresses, the union is functionally over. Move 3, the team split. This is the most human of the business tells. Their core team, editors, managers, assistants, producers, who had worked for them for years, began to subtly shift. Without any fanfare, key personnel started appearing in the credits of only one person's projects. Longtime collaborators began giving interviews exclusively about working with her or him, not them. This isn't a coincidence. When the core team, the family, starts choosing sides or is strategically divided, it's the final administrative step in a breakup. The shared home, the business, is literally being divided, room by room, person by person. These 3 moves, happening in tandem over that 18-month shadow period, are a deafening scream in the silent world of corporate filings. They tell the real story. This was a controlled demolition of a business empire, planned with architectural precision, long before the public saw any dust. The announcement is made. The public reacts. And then, the first solo interviews. This is where the narrative war we discussed in Part 1 goes from covert ops to open combat. Let's decode 2 key early interviews, one from each. We're not listening to what they said. We're listening to how they said it, and what they didn't say. In this first major solo sit-down, the language was telling. Words like new chapter, personal journey, rediscovering my own voice, and exciting new projects were repeated like a mantra. The tone was forward-looking, almost buoyant. The past was acknowledged with a respectful, but distant, gratitude. I'll always be thankful for that time, but now I'm focused on what's next. The subtext? I was constrained. My identity was fused. Now, I am free. The past is a foundation, not a home. This framing paints the speaker as the proactive agent of change, the one embracing a bold new future. It's a powerful, positive narrative to claim. The other early interview took a markedly different tone. The language centered on legacy, protecting what we built, stewardship, and staying true to the core values. There was a heavier emphasis on the past, on the weight of the empire they'd constructed. The tone was more serious, more reflective, with a slight undercurrent of melancholy. It's important to me that the work we did continues to mean something. The subtext? I am the guardian of the true legacy. The institution matters more than individual whims. This framing paints the speaker as the responsible one, the keeper of the flame, implying the other party might be chasing something more fleeting. Do you see the battle? One is selling evolution and freedom. The other is selling fidelity and legacy. They are crafting two different, competing stories about the meaning of the split. One is a rebirth. The other is a solemn duty. This isn't accidental. This is high-level reputation management. They are offering their audience two different truths to buy into. And your allegiance as a fan would be shaped by which version resonates more with you. Now, we arrive at the core question from part 1, what was the singular moment? The point of no return? Based on cross-referencing the business timeline, insider whispers from trusted industry sources, not tabloids, and analyzing the nature of their final joint projects, a credible theory emerges. And it has nothing to do with personal scandal. It's called the failed pivot. Here's the theory: approximately 2 years before the public announcement, they, as a business entity, faced an existential crisis. Their core brand, their content engine, the thing that made them famous, was facing market saturation. Viewership metrics were plateauing. The algorithm was shifting. The pressure to evolve, to pivot into something new to sustain and grow the business, was immense. They embarked on a major, high-budget, high-stakes new venture. Let's call it Project Phoenix. It was meant to be their evolution. A new show format, a new brand extension, a leap into a more mature or different market. It required massive investment, both financial and creative. And according to this theory, it failed. Not publicly, in a dramatic flameout, but internally, in the development stage. The creative visions for Project Phoenix were diametrically opposed. One saw it as a bold reinvention. The other saw it as a betrayal of their authentic roots. The financial risk was astronomical. The disagreements were fundamental, not superficial. This wasn't a fight about a video idea. This was a fight about the future survival and identity of their entire life's work. The failure of Project Phoenix to get off the ground due to this irreconcilable creative schism created the irrevocable break. It proved, in the cold light of a boardroom, that they could no longer be business partners. If they couldn't agree on the single most important project of their careers, then the partnership was no longer viable. The love, the history, the personal relationship, all of that became secondary. The business was broken. And when the business that is also your marriage breaks, there is no repairing it. The trust in shared judgment evaporates. This theory fits all the facts: the timing of the shadow period starting soon after, the aggressive move to secure separate IP, the framing of one as the bold future person and the other as the legacy person. The pivotal moment wasn't an affair or a betrayal. It was a business meeting. A creative disagreement so vast it revealed an unbridgeable chasm. So, where are we now? The dust hasn't settled, it's simply formed new landscapes. Let's assess the current realities, because this story is very much still being written. Reality 1, the audience divide. Their fanbase has fractured, as predicted by the narrative war. You now have Team Legacy and Team Evolution. The comments sections are battlegrounds. This divide is their new normal. It impacts every business move they make, as they must now cater to and grow their separate tribes. Reality 2, the silent competition. They are now direct competitors in the same niche market. They compete for views, for brand deals, for audience mind share. Every successful solo launch by one is a subtle, unspoken challenge to the other. The comparison